So if you could give every client just like one piece of advice, what would it be?
Read through your documents.
Yes.
That's good. What would you say was one of your most memorable cases that taught you something? Even if it was like earlier when you're like, this is like, okay, I need to keep this moving forward because this is something that I didn't know.
For the record, everybody, their offers are very, very well written.
There you
I
go.
never have any problems.
I just slide the 20 across the table.
It's more than a 20.
Yeah. Welcome to the TNT Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya, and each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive. Welcome back to the TNT Podcast, where we bring you the best tips, strategies, and stories from Northern Ontario's #1 real estate market.
Okay, so today we have a very, very special guest. She is the real estate lawyer for over a decade now in Sudbury. She is the Amanda Berloni. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. That was like the nicest introduction I've ever received in my life.
Yeah. So how long have you been practicing for now?
Almost 11 years. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary in April, so that was really exciting for us. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we know you really well in the real estate realm for doing real estate law. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of how you got into real estate law?
So I started my career in Toronto. That's where I went to law school. And I was a corporate securities lawyer on Bay Street for a little while. But my grandfather was a real estate lawyer in Sudbury, and he worked with my mom. And then when he passed away, I thought it was a really... I just wanted to move home to be close to family. I wanted to make sure that I could have the opportunity to work with my mom. And I did see a lot of good opportunities in the real estate market here. I thought that, we'd be able to provide a service and hopefully be successful at it. He was. And so that led me back home.
So it's like a legacy of real estate law that you have in your family, it sounds like.
Well, I like to think so. And again, it has a lot to do with my mom, working so closely alongside him and now with me and the other lawyers in our office. So it is really nice to be able to continue on a family tradition.
Yeah. I think at the time when I first met your mom, I think it was about probably 15 or so years ago, I was at another brokerage. And I think at the time you were in California, and she was saying she was trying to get you back into Sudbury.
Yeah. Well, success, for her, I guess. Yeah. I went to Berkeley for a year. I wasn't ready to fully adult yet. I went to law school pretty early, graduated pretty early. So when I finished my articles, my employer at the time let me basically take a gap year, and I thought I would do my master's of law. And then I thought about where I wanted to live, and California seemed cool. So I went and took that opportunity. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. So, and then I worked in Toronto for another couple of years. And then, like I said, she was able to reel me back into Sudbury. So
Did you know it was always law? Like even growing up, like let's say in high school, did you know you wanted to go into law because that was kind of like the family legacy, or is that like did that have to get extracted out of you?
I mean, I'm just going to be very honest with people here. I think that's the whole point of these situations. I graduated with an arts degree. Yeah. And the opportunities after an arts degree can be limited unless you go to graduate school. And I thought about what I wanted to do. I think I would make just the world's worst teacher. Nobody wants me teaching their children. So, you think about what else you can do. Law school was always an option because of my family and because of, that history. So I decided to go to law school. And it's sort of worked out for me.
And going through law school, did you always have like an interest in real estate law? Or obviously you did a little bit of like different specifics before real estate. But was it always like, we could kind of always Like, was real estate always kind of in the back of your mind, or?
It was because I worked with my mom and my grandfather as like a summer student, and basically all throughout high school and university, I always had a job there. So I knew that it was something that I was familiar with. Yeah. And then when I went to school at U of T, I wanted a job in Toronto, and I wanted a job on Bay Street. And those, at least at the time, were not that easy to come by. And basically you take a job where you can. I was fortunate enough to know that I never wanted to see the inside of a courtroom ever. I wanted a solicitor-based practice. So when I was offered the job that I was, it was a perfect fit for me in Toronto. They had a commercial real estate division, and they also did corporate work, which I still do to this day. So without that experience, I wouldn't be able to have the practice I do now.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So what, I mean, you've been practicing for quite a while. What do you think are some like of the biggest moments in your career that kind of shape where Berloni Law is today?
I definitely think that, first of all, opening your own practice with an already fairly established team was very helpful. That entering into the market, I wanted to make sure that I was able to carry forward, this legacy well and do it justice. I think hiring new lawyers was another really big milestone.
It's a big step
for me. I always sort of thought that I would just operate as a sole practitioner, as my grandfather had, and just to see that room for growth and development. And they're, just amazing. So that was a big step for me. Obviously celebrating our 10 years. Being a business owner and being a lawyer are two very different skill sets, and I wasn't sure that I would be good at the former, right? So knowing that we've been able to grow a practice and have like such a great team is really great for me, and knowing that we've been able to do it for 10 years now, we're proud.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It seems like it's a lot more sustainable when you have other professionals that can join your business and be in your business with you. And it's nice to see you grow and have different lawyers working alongside you. But I think a lot of people, especially home buyers and sellers, they don't really understand what goes behind the scenes and what is the role of a real estate lawyer in the transaction. So whether someone's maybe buying a home or maybe an investment property, can you kind of maybe walk us through maybe some of the things that people don't know about real estate law and what goes on?
So absolutely. In Ontario, and I can't speak to other provinces, but in Ontario, certainly real estate lawyers, having a lawyer versus a notary or a title searcher like they do in America, needs to register things in our registry system. So legally, we are a necessary evil, unfortunately. That being said, and especially in the Sudbury market, we do a lot of work behind the scenes. We, at least in our office, do full searches of title. I don't care if you have title insurance for title defects. We want to know if there's Planning Act deficiencies, registrations, executions, liens. These are all really important things I think any home buyer should know before getting into, what is going to be the biggest purchase of their lives. And then we also do searches for zoning and permit issues, which in our area is always a hot topic of conversation. We do them on every file now. It's created, it's not extra work, it is doing our jobs, but in other jurisdictions, it's a step that people can omit because they would have sufficient title insurance coverage. Here, we have to go through those searches with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that people are getting what they bargained for, make sure that all requisite permits have been obtained, no work orders. We contact, utility companies. We meet with clients and explain their mortgage documents. So much now of what happens is electronic, and people never read what you send to them in a DocuSign package. So I'm there my team is there to sit down with people. We still like to meet people face to face and go through everything so that people have an understanding of what it is that they're buying, their mortgage particulars, etc.
Yeah, it's always funny. Even in obviously our line of business, we'll have a meeting or over the phone. Okay, this is what the offer is going to be. This is the price, and then okay, you send out a text or call them. Okay, I just sent it over. Read through it, send it back, and like 30 seconds later, it's back and it's completed, all done. So you have to go back and be like, hey, you should just read through it. I know we already kind of talked about what's already in it, but have a read through, please.
It's always my favorite line. Well, I trust you.
Yeah.
Don't. I need you to read this.
Read the documents, yeah. So if you could give every client just like one piece of advice, what would it be?
Read through your documents.
Yes.
That's good.
No, so I think there's a couple. One is it is absolutely that. You are also responsible for the documents that you sign. Ultimately, I can explain everything to you to the best of my ability. So can you guys, but it's important that you read what it is that you're signing, what it is you've agreed to, what you're committing yourselves to, and understand it. And then that's when we're here to answer the questions that you have. I don't expect people to like read the legal mumbo jumbo. You don't need to know that, but you do need to have a basic understanding because you've read through the documents that you need for your mortgage or for the contract that you signed,
Yeah.
I would also to say, I would like to put it in the air supply that clients should maybe manage their expectations a little bit just in terms of what professionals do and what they're hired to do. I mean, we're good, but we can't do everything.
God's work.
Yeah.
No, can't. I'm also not a plumber or an electrician or, and you have these people and I get it because they're nervous and they want answers and I want to be able to give them to them. But what I always try to say to people is even if I can't give you the right answer, I'll put you in touch with somebody who can. So knowing what it is that each person on your team does, knowing what your mortgage broker is responsible for, what your realtor is responsible for, and what your lawyer is responsible for, and having expectations around that, I would say would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like we see that all the time in our business as well. People will do, say, an inspection and then they'll ask us for our advice. What do you think of this thing that was brought up by the inspector? And it's difficult not to comment on it because it's not our area of expertise, but we're always putting them in touch with those professionals who maybe know a little bit more and can weigh in on the situation a little bit better. I guess I'm a little bit surprised that when you're sitting down at the closing table with a client that there's still these questions that are maybe coming up.
So, and it happens often, and then it happens often after the fact as well. So I'll meet with a client and they'll say to me, okay, well, we have them sign an acknowledgement that they've had eyes on the property before they purchased. And then they said, well, I didn't. I said, well, you should speak to your agent about completing a final walkthrough. Oh, well, that was never brought up to me. Okay, so now I'm letting them know that. If there's a problem, you bring that problem to me, but I'm not in charge of arranging your final walkthrough. People buy and sell an investment property. What are my capital gains implications? I know the rules generally, but I'm not a tax advisor, not qualified to tell you. And if I do tell you, and if I do get it wrong, I promise you'll only remember what I said. And if it doesn't align with what your accountant said, then I'm going to be the one who's in trouble. Asking me things about, changing the mortgage payment schedule. Well, my broker said this. Well, you should defer to your broker because I only have what I see in front of me. So if they told you X, then, listen to X. It's after the closing where different things come up. My basement flooded. No problem. We're very happy to write an initial letter requesting compensation if we feel that it's, deserving or if there was an actual issue or a breach on the seller's side. But they'll ask me, how much should I ask for? This I do not know.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have to get somebody in there to give you an estimate.
Yeah. This is when you get out of your nice clothes and you grab your tool belt and head
exactly.
over to the house. Like,
my Barbie hammer. You know?
yeah.
yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so what would you say was one of your most memorable cases that taught you something about, even if it was like earlier when you're like, this is like, okay, I need to keep this moving forward because this is something that I didn't know?
So one that always sticks out to me, and it's going to seem so intuitive, but I try to take a common sense approach to certain things. I would always try to not let a deal die. And I remember, and it was early on, I had a client, they lived out of town and there was a time difference, and it was a question about extending a deal or not extending it, at which point, you know, time would cease to be of the essence and there would be an argument and potentially, you know, someone being held in breach of contract in the tender process. I was trying to avoid all of that. So I took what I thought was a common sense approach and thought, okay, just agree to an extension for one day. My client was asleep, so I wasn't properly able to get that specific instruction. But again, thinking it's one day, and that client, it turns out there was other reasons why they didn't want to complete the contract. And so that always sticks out with me, and I will never, ever again not do that. If I have to fly to Europe to get my instructions, you know, I will. Or at the very least, if in order to keep, let's say, a deal alive for that one day, I have now learned how to phrase my response. I won't agree to an extension. I haven't had the opportunity to seek instructions from my client, you know, but as far as we know, everybody still wants to proceed. And what I have learned is that there is very few problems that can't be fixed the next day.
Yeah.
I understand the law. I understand time to remain of the essence. But when you have two willing parties, usually you can write the path, and making sure that parties are still willing is just so important, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. Even like obviously we'll go back to our kind of experience, but like when somebody calls and say, oh, they don't want to leave the curtains, is that okay? Well, chances are it's okay. Yeah. But I got to check with my client.
Exactly.
I totally get that part for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Everything you do. And it might seem so silly. And now I'm hyper cautious about it. I'll ask a client something. They're like, well, of course, Amanda. And I said, well, just on the off chance that you're 1 in 10,000 who maybe has a reason while you're dreaming, you know, asleep and on a different continent that you don't want to complete this deal, I'm going to confirm everything. And then I'm going to confirm it in writing. And you're going to think that it's overkill. But again, my experience has taught me that people will always try to find somebody to blame. And the professionals that they've hired and are paying money for are usually the people they will point the finger at, despite your best efforts to do everything right.
Yeah,
that's right. I agree with that.
You definitely mentioned time is of the essence, and there's no real emergencies in real estate. Like, I think we find that in our contracts often as well when we're negotiating back and forth. There's sort of a good faith measure, and sometimes when just the timing isn't aligning, you can always come back to the table rather than rushing into a decision that you don't feel comfortable with. And certainly as professionals, we never want to speak on behalf of the client. So it can be a little bit tricky to keep the conversation going and keep all the parties aligned without negating a deal, right?
I find, but even in like my 10 years of practice, like with DocuSign and AuthentiSign and all these e-sign platforms, it's almost like we have gotten a little bit lackadaisy, even though it's become such a way easier process to get a signature. Just type it up, send it off. They give a little initial, but it's almost like I find agents are getting a little lackadaisy where it's just like, yeah, we'll get it. Or we don't need to rush, because it's not necessarily like, okay, I have to drive across town for the signature. It's just like, okay, I'll deal with this later. Yeah. And then they go have dinner, whatever it is, and forget about it.
And, you know, realistically, all of these times are important. They're there for a reason. But you only end up looking at them when there's a problem. And so you just hope that there's not going to be any problems. And I agree with you completely that dates and times seem to be more of a suggestion lately than a firm closing date. It used to be that if your deal was closing on X date, it had to close on X date. And now I'm finding more and more deals are being extended. I had a conversation with another agent, the other day, and people are just flabbergasted by the request for extensions, how often it's happening, and it's happening for a myriad of reasons. And some of them are actually nobody's fault. It's just banks need more time, appraisers need more time, you need more time to do searches, etc. Sometimes it's because people are being lazy, and that I have a little less tolerance for. But when we're talking to clients, and it goes back to your earlier question, and my answer about managing expectations, you never want to tell your clients that your closing date is just a suggestion, but you should prepare them for the possibility, at least, that someone could ask for an extension, or that if there was a hiccup, parties would have to agree to an extension. Because I have more sellers than I care to count. I'm making it sound like every one of my deals is a disaster. I promise you they're not. But who say, they have to close. I understand legally they're obligated to close. But if their appraiser just did the appraisal and the mortgage instructions haven't come in yet, yes, they should be in a position to close legally, but they can't. So now we need to figure out how best to protect you as the seller. What can we do to make sure you're made whole? And, and grant this extension or not if you don't want to.
I remember reading, I'm recalling this off of memory, but they're down in Toronto. It was a pre-construction that was supposed to close. The buyers, it was like the week of closing, they needed an extension for like 1 day, and the builder said no, ended up suing the client. It was a whole, obviously a long drawn out battle. But they ended up getting their deposit and then reselling it so they made like maybe let's say an extra like 50 grand by not closing and selling it again. But it's like with that, although it's like such an awful position to put a client in, especially as a builder with a reputation, it's like it is, a very important day in time. So
you should be ready.
You should be ready.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that the COVID market taught us a lot of things, because there was a lot of sellers in that time when it was so busy who knew that they could just relist and resell their house and make more. People who signed contracts before the really big hustle and bustle when prices jumped so significantly, who thought, oh gosh, like I could really take advantage of this. My understanding is that case law has shifted that perspective a little bit. Again, I am not a litigator. We should put in like a full disclaimer on the bottom of me.
Across the screen.
She does not go into a courtroom.
I do not, nor am I qualified to give advice on this. But I have heard from other colleagues of mine that there is case law to suggest that if a buyer requests a reasonable extension, and is willing to compensate the seller properly, my understanding is that the courts have said the seller should be giving that extension.
Which makes sense, I guess, as long as it's semi-reasonable.
In the COVID market, we kind of saw in our market here locally, as things were going up and up and up, we had people speculating a little bit more. So they were purchasing a deal firm with an assignment clause in it. And then they were reselling that deal. And sometimes they couldn't resell the deal in time, so they would ask for an extension. And usually it would seem in our practice that the seller would get a bit more deposit to sort of hold in trust, a non-refundable deposit portion, to sort of continue that good faith that if we're going to extend this deal, that the seller is going to be compensated. And then hopefully if the market doesn't take a downturn, everything will work out fine. But did you see, I suppose we've seen these shifts in the real estate market with trends where their prices are increasing quite a bit month to month. Did you see sort of any downfalls with your clients specifically where there were this speculation with assignments and that type of thing?
Well, I did have a few people who, like investor clients, who thought that they would be able to sell certain contracts. I also had purchasers on the other end as the assignees, right, of that contract, the people buying the contract, so to speak. And again, I'm not qualified to give an opinion of value. That's not my job. I thought some of the prices they were paying, that was ludicrous. I also know that these sellers, who oftentimes were unrepresented because investors would kind of go door knocking, were probably taking a bit of a bath on what they could have gotten for their home, not really understanding the assignment process, not really understanding that that contract was then being sold. I didn't have the opportunity to look into, I mean, I know it's legal, but the ethics of that always seemed a bit off-putting to me. It's a capitalist market. Everyone's entitled to make a buck. I just, I do think people should be doing it with full knowledge, you know?
It was amazing to see how many of these, what did you call it? Not flippers.
An assignment. Oh gosh, I know there's a term for it.
Yeah. But anyways,
Like wholesalers?
Wholesalers, thank
yes.
you. Oh my God. Like how many wholesalers popped up in like those 3 crazy years of COVID, let's say. And it's like, yeah, I'm a wholesaler now too. And I'm like, oh, but do you understand like what goes on here?
Yeah.
But there was actually there was a couple of deals. Obviously, I invest myself, so it's like I would see a couple that I was like kind of semi interested in. So I'd be like, you know what, like send me the agreement, and they'd be like, oh no, you have to like send us the deposit, and then we'll send you the agreement. So you're gonna send me, after I send you whatever $10,000, $20,000 for a deposit, you're gonna send me the contract that I have no like, you know, I can't change it at all.
No control.
So and so one of them actually sent it to me. I'm like, this is awful. This is not good. This is not good. You cannot assign this to anybody. Like, oh, so a couple days later, I'm sure they did.
Right.
I made a couple bucks off of it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
That's crazy.
It was kind of wild.
People just wanted property, and they didn't care.
No.
And they didn't care what they signed. Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm so happy those days are over.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Knock on
Knock on wood. They don't start again.
Yeah, there's still a bit of a hot market, but not the Wild West. I feel like the couple of years were just anything goes.
Yeah.
Anything went.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you see anything, speaking of trends, do you see anything like moving forward that it might just be like just budding right now, but like a trend moving forward that like, okay, this is the direction that we're going to be going in?
I mean, I definitely still see a strong market based on this. I do see a trend where house prices are, I mean, it looks to me like they're leveling off a little bit. Higher market, higher end homes are still having a harder time selling, and the sweet spot for people who are trying to enter the market is still the hardest market it looks like to enter. I hear a lot of my clients say they've been looking for 2 years. So I don't know if that's an up and coming trend or just something that I foresee staying for a little while, especially as interest rates are going to drop, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll stay steady. I don't know. Again, not my area of expertise, but they dropped it the other day.
Yeah.
And so
I'm writing that down. Amanda Berloni said interest rates are going to drop.
Yeah.
I would like to see, though, a trend in Sudbury as house prices get higher and as closing dates become more and more movable, shall we say, of some higher deposits.
Yeah.
I do think that people having a little bit more skin in the game would really motivate them to do what they're supposed to do. I do also see a big trend of people coming to Sudbury, which is great for growth in Sudbury, but people still wanting to buy, moving here from out of town, a lot of immigration, which is great, you know. We are dealing with the foreign home buyer ban and non-resident speculation tax here now, and that's become more and more prevalent as we see new Canadians coming. And I've had to give a lot more opinions on whether or not people can purchase and what taxes they'll be subject to. Actually, myself, Marla, and Connor, like my whole team, are very well versed in doing that because we saw that this was going to be a bit of a trend going forward.
Yeah.
more and more
That's
of it.
interesting. As you mentioned that, I do believe there's a couple of brokerages where they put in their Schedule A that says something to the effect that they are Canadian citizen or permanent resident and ability, or they're aware of the speculation tax. I'm curious, is it the job of the realtor? Is it our job to sort of front load that and ask our clients if they are Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and if they're aware of the foreign buyer ban and the speculation tax?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because by the time they've signed, like, we don't get the contract until it's signed, sealed,
Done.
and
Until it's too
delivered.
late,
So
yeah.
it's too late.
Yeah.
So certainly on your end, and then we're also working with a lot of mortgage brokers who now make sure that that's the first question that they ask too.
Right.
And even if you get past the ban, so to speak, you know, if you have the appropriate work permit, etc., that doesn't mean you won't be subject to the tax. So we have had a few deals where people make it past the first threshold. They're able to buy a home, but their PR card's still, you know, waiting to come in. They're still here on a work permit. So they're subject to the non-resident speculation tax, which is 25% of your purchase price.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the banks won't finance that. So it's an amount that just an average person doesn't have saved unless you're expecting it.
Yeah.
So these are important front-loading questions.
Right.
And to me, as agents and mortgage brokers, it would be like one of the first ones that I ask now.
Yeah.
You know, are you
Yeah.
a permanent resident? And then do you have a mortgage approval? Or
That's
whatever your next question would be.
Really good advice. That's really good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit of smack for a little bit. Okay, let's make it a little bit
Just like
fun.
my favorite thing to
do. Too much legal stuff. All right. So without naming some names, let's hear of like a very memorable deal where it's either like when you see their name pop up on your phone, you don't want to answer, or it was so good and so smooth, like one of my transactions.
Yeah.
You don't have to name drop me though.
Where like everything went off without a
And it's just like
hitch,
you
and
see the phone and you're like you
perfect.
cannot wait to talk to them again.
Right. Well, I mean, on that point, everybody says to me that when they see my number on their phone, they just dread it. And I think to myself, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm just calling about keys, but usually it's people's first,
Yeah.
go-to to say, Jesus,
God.
why is she calling me?
What's blowing up?
What did
now?
what did I do
happening?
wrong? What did I do
Why
wrong?
is everything such a dumpster fire? There's no one deal that went so poorly. I do have clients though, some of them when they call me, and I love these people. They're great. They've been great clients for years. But these guys, and they're always men, they don't read a thing. And then it is the day of closing and they haven't read anything that I've sent to them. They haven't listened to a thing that I've explained to them. And there's a problem or something. Or they'll finally then decide to look at it and say, well, this isn't right. So, well, I sent that to you 2 weeks ago. I don't understand why this is just coming up now. And then I have to go back to the other side, tail between legs, put the blame on myself and somehow figure out a solution to this problem. And, now I want to say to certain people, you have to sit down in front of me. And I'm going to put a Post-it on your forehead so that when we look in the mirror, you can see these are your deal terms, or, and there's always going to be clients like that. And again, they always come back, but man, oh man, they just don't seem to be that interested in what they're signing.
Yeah.
Or when you call them, do they have closing? Okay, I need that down payment check, please.
Yeah.
I need what?
What?
Oh, it's that today? Yes, today. It's always been today. Need that now. Reminded you about it 2 days ago, I would say though, for instance, today I'm extending 3 deals. 3
Wow.
Yep.
deals because houses were listed as multifamilies
Oh.
and
It's not.
none of them are.
Of course.
And no one bothered to ask. And no one bothered to look into it beforehand. And so, I mean, that's a lot of deals in a day to extend because of
For the
one
same
problem.
reason. Yeah.
I feel like that's
very
it could be
common.
like a weekly problem in your office. Like I feel like there's so many that are like questionable duplexes, triplexes that clearly are not if you knew what to look for. But yeah.
I mean, I'm not a statistics person, but I would tell you that if there's a basement unit somewhere, there's like a 99% chance that unit is not legal.
Yeah.
And again, you need to do a search to confirm, but as we're managing expectations for our clients, probably not legal, that basement apartment that was just put in here willy-nilly. And then what's even better to me is, one of these deals today, I've said, okay, well, a letter of opinion would be lovely, right? And they said, well, no, it was converted in 2010. So this seller went to market with as 2 units, wrote it in the offer, 2 units, probably didn't read it, or maybe didn't know, and their realtor never said, when was this unit added? Because had they asked when was this unit added, I'm sure they would have realized that in 2010 it probably wasn't legal without the appropriate permit. So like again, this problem could have been nipped right in the bud.
Yeah.
But now I get to be the bearer of the bad news to these people who have their families moving in and moving trucks booked and have taken time off work to paint their homes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's always a fun conversation.
Oh my goodness. If somebody's aware, however, let's say it's been marketed as, and I don't like this, but a duplex plus in-law suite. And the purchaser is aware that it's not illegal. I mean, I think the in-law suite says it's not a legal third unit.
Yeah.
If they don't require financing, they don't require that rent for financing, are they still okay to close on it if they're fully aware?
I mean, I would say yes.
Okay.
They're getting what they bargained for. They have a full understanding. It's where that same client bargained for a triplex or 3 legal units, however you want to describe it. That's where the problem is. Or, and every mortgage broker at least now should know that an in-law suite is not a legal unit, and don't use that rent to qualify your clients. I would hope that that's what's happening, to your point about financing. So to me, as long as they've been properly made aware, understand that at any point in time, the city could say, you can't use this unit anymore. If it can be insured, obviously make them safe so that you don't have tenants living in squalor, right?
It's a good standard.
Yeah. No cockroaches, no squalor. One would hope. Then yes, we can close it.
I mean, we actually had one beginning of this year that I was on the listing, and we had bought it a couple of years ago. Not we, but my client had bought it a couple of years ago thinking it was a duplex. Things change, and then we had to relist it. The deal fell apart. We relisted it as a single family with an in-law suite, and sold. Somebody bought it as a single family house with an in-law suite. So I feel like if you're upfront, people will be like, okay, it's an illegal unit. We know what we're getting into. But the week of closing or the day of closing, when we realize that it's not legal, like that's when it becomes an issue.
People can handle anything as long as they're made aware, as long as that expectation has been created. I'm honest to God, if I could give advice to anybody in any profession that deals with clients, everything can be solved if you properly manage expectations. If you make people aware of the possibilities, you hope they don't happen. But if they do, at least they're mentally prepared for the possibility.
I have one last question. On the realtor side, the real estate side, the legal mumbo jumbo side, is there a clause or something that you see in the contracts when it gets to your desk that you're like, why do realtors do this to me?
Why does Tyler do this to me all the time?
Every time.
It's that clause in.
Okay, well, this is where Smack Talk comes in because I got a few.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the brand. Let's hear the brand.
No names.
So and so does this every time.
We'll just do beep beep.
I think it's section 8 of the agreement where it talks about present use of a property.
Oh, yes.
Don't give me the zoning.
R2-3.
That's not the present use of
I
a
love
building.
when buyers send me stuff that has R2-3 or whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds good.
Absolutely, totally. It's R2-3.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is R2-3, but is it a single family? Is it 2 legal units? Or, and I have to make my peace with residential because technically present use is residential, but what we really like to know as lawyers, again, creating the expectation, am I putting this through as a single family dwelling, 2 legal units, a duplex with an in-law suite? Tell me what it is that my clients are buying so that I know when I do my searches, I can cross-reference that and not have to play like some weird guessing game.
Yep. That's fair.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Also, I had a situation not that long ago, and I've talked to other realtors about this. And I love when realtors call me genuinely to talk about the implications of a clause so I can explain it to them and they can put the right ones in their agreements. If you're acting for a buyer and you want vacant possession of a unit, say, I want vacant possession of the unit. If you're acting for the seller and you know that tenants are tenants and might not move, then put in there that the obligation of the seller is to serve the notice. But the agent on the buyer's end should manage that expectation for their client and say to their client, just because the notice is served, right now, you have about a 50-50 chance that tenant's actually going to move. So they should at least be prepared for the possibility that tenant's not going to move out. Because again, if they're prepared for that, if they weren't told that, the notice was served, vacant possession will be given, those two things are not one and the same, nor is the obligation. I have this client now saying to me, well, the seller had an obligation to provide vacant possession. No, the seller had an obligation to serve the notice, which they did. So they're not in breach of contract. Like those are two very different things, which should have been explained.
Yeah.
Like that's one that we get hung up on all the time in the office. Like especially we both actually deal with like a couple, multifamily sales every year, and it's like, okay, we want vacant possession. It's like, okay, well, chances are,
We'll try.
I mean, it's 50-50, like you said. We could, but we could also not get it. So it's
you manage their expectations, and you talk to the other agent on the other side, and you maybe agree to mutually extend a certain amount of times in order to facilitate that process if it needs to be facilitated. But like you said, it's managing the expectations. Not everything goes super smoothly. Like we'll put the clauses in there to make sure that we double check that the lawyers can do their jobs and check the present use and all the contracts. But at the same time, something might go wrong.
And it always does. It always does. Contrast that, the example that I just gave where the seller's obligation was to serve the notice versus another deal that I have closing early next week where the tenant's not moving out. Again, they're all dumpster fires. And it's not me. It's not me. I'm convincing myself it's not me. But the clause read vacant possession of both units. So now my clients can terminate this deal without question. They can choose to extend, but it takes months to get through.
Especially if they're
And the
unwilling.
two different tenants. Yeah. So, this guy's, anyways, it's, they can terminate, but that is clear in the agreement. They knew the possibility that this tenant was not going to move out. It was clear in the agreement that vacant possession was to be provided. If it can't be on the closing date, my clients can try to negotiate an extension to see if we can get them out, or they can walk away. But as a part of walking away too, and this is where I like to have these conversations with realtors, the money for their appraisal still spent, the money for any home inspections still spent. And and one of my favorite lines is, whether it's right or wrong, you sort of have to pay to play. If it works out 9 times out of 10, great. And if you take a bit of a hit on the 10th one, hopefully the next one goes better. Sorry.
Okay, so I lied when I said I had one last question.
Okay.
I always like asking this. We've been interviewing for a new position in the office, and I always ask this question. I love this question. Where if we're 5 years in the future from now, where's Berloni Law?
Oh gosh.
Yes. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Such a loaded question. Well, we're putting on an addition to the building.
Oh, no way. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Very exciting. So I see a world where Berloni Law is up and running with, a bit of a larger staff. I don't want to rule out the possibility of hiring other lawyers, but I think, growth is good if it can be sustained. I really think that Marla and Connor are going to do great things in the office, which will, could maybe, I don't want to say allow me to step back. I'll always be here and want to be the front face of the business, but it's nice to take vacation every now and again.
Yep.
Really kind of working as a team, but I'm always of the opinion that busier is better.
Yep.
There's like zero chill and no slow in my world.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I always like those when I see Amanda Berloni calling me at 6:30 at night or 7 o'clock
Why
at night.
she's still in the office?
Do you want to come sign these documents like late? I'm like go home.
well, part of being a team, like there is no job that's too small, right? We have a very busy office. Everyone who works with us is so wonderful, but in the summertime, especially like in crazy busy markets, people are overwhelmed. So jump in where you can. If I have to book your appointment and it means I'm calling you at 7, then that's just what you're going to do to make sure everything gets done.
Yeah.
I don't expect that for everybody else either. Like I understand that I'm a crazy person, but no, I'd like to grow, and I'd like things to just be really organized and smooth.
That sounds like a true business owner.
Hashtag
Organized,
goals,
smooth, and growth. Yes.
Yeah.
All those things could
I feel
work
like
out.
the business, and it's all like cyclical. So you get into the business, and you're like, I'm gonna work 24/7, and then like 10 years later, you're like, okay, it's time to like slow down, let other people do the thing. But it's also hard to let go of those roles and tasks and offload them to other people. But
you got a good team.
I have a great team.
Yeah.
But what I found is that the more kind of people I hire, the bigger our team gets, the busier we're getting. So while there was a view to, having somebody else kind of help me, they're all getting so busy with their own practices that I'm going to need to hire another person to help me, manage my life a little bit. But
that's good.
Yeah, so good.
Sorry.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure Tyler has as well about real estate law and all the work that you guys do behind the scenes. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. And even when I'm sick and all congested. So to the people watching and listening, I don't always sound like this. But thank you again. And thank you guys always for being so supportive of the team, of our office. We can't thank you enough. And, for the record, everybody, their offers are very, very well written. And I never have any problems.
Like just slide the 20 across the table.
It's more than a 20.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us,
you.
and we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. Thanks for tuning into the TNT Real Estate Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share with others looking to succeed in real estate.
We'll catch you next time with more tips and strategies for navigating Northern Ontario's #1 real estate market. Until then, stay ahead in real estate.